So the story broke the other day. A bunch of the major media outlets carried it, and actually, I just a few minutes ago went to look to see if there were any stories about how this was basically just a big hoax, and it was deleted off of most of the major news networks' websites. And I actually ran into Reuters. Actually still has the story up. There's no dates in it, and I'm guessing that's what they're using to get around the fact that it's completely false, and it gives the impression that it's going on currently. But it was a story that the U.S. has over 100,000 children incarcerated in detention camps, basically from illegal border crossings, things like that. You know, the child detention, the children in cages, that whole narrative. They were trying to push that. And it claims there's a UN study that says that there's over 100,000 children that are being held in detention, and that's in violation of, I believe, some sort of human rights thing or something with the UN. It turns out that data was collected in 2015. Obviously, just blows the narrative up. So most of the networks actually chose to just delete it. This is worse. Actually, I was unprepared. I didn't realize that someone was going to... Reuters still has the story up, and that's maybe worse. They still have the story up. I think they just pulled all the dates, or they didn't have dates initially, and they just left it that way. Because if you read it, the whole story is technically true, but it's from 2015. It's not current. It's totally misleading and it's a really, it's not even a questionable area. I mean, they are lying. They're just lying by omission, and I guess they view that as being not as bad. But most of the networks or news outlets chose to just delete the story. They actually, a few of them came out and said, "Oh, this is from 2015. We're going to delete it." Just another example of one of those times where, they tweet a story out, the initial story gets, 1 million retweets, and then they tweet out a correction hours later and it gets 50,000 retweets or whatever. Which is a totally different thing, but also makes you question, when conservatives and people like that get suppressed on Twitter, do they also suppress corrections by some of these news outlets? But anyway, I just wanted to bring this up because it really shows how actively evil these people are. I still try and give the average Democrat the benefit of the doubt, and I know a lot of people who agree and disagree with me about things who don't really follow stuff. Even my dad, for example, I'll tell him things who we agree pretty much across the board politically, but I'll tell him things and he's like, there's no way that's happening. Some of the crazy transgender stuff, like, there's no way. That's an exaggerated story. So I know a lot of people don't follow things, so still give them the benefit of the doubt there, but they're getting so openly evil that it's getting harder and harder to defend anyone on the other side. And I mean people that vote for some of these people that are just openly evil and follow these outlets, even give these outlets viewership and things like that, and believe what they're actually being told by these outlets. Because this is an example of how actually actively evil these people are. They're evil. This isn't a question of, oh, they made a mistake, or, oh, we have different views. This is evil. By their belief system, their supposed belief system, this was such a big story that 100,000 children were being detained by the United States. Now, I don't necessarily agree that that's evil, because most of these children are being trafficked and they're being brought over and things like that. So the fact that it happened during the Obama administration, I would have never gone out and said this is an evil act and this is horrible, even though it was the Obama administration doing it. It's irrelevant. I mean, most of these kids are being human trafficked anyway, so Maybe I'd much rather them be in one of our detention centers than out with a coyote being passed around, having God knows what happened to them. But anyway, they think that that's such an evil thing if President Trump's doing it, that it garners. I mean, they all immediately ran with this story. It was a huge thing. It lasted for about 5 minutes because the internet exists, and people figured out, because God knows they would have ran with it if the internet didn't exist. They were just covered up that it was from 2015. The minute they found out it was happened under the Obama administration, something that they consider to be this horrible act of evil, they don't even put corrections out on the story to say, oh, well, this happened in 2015 under the Obama administration, still evil, but happened under the Obama administration. They delete it. That's telling. That's a telling reaction by these people. That shows you that they are active. They are actually evil. They don't just disagree with us. They are evil. The mainstream media is evil. They will cover. I mean, we already see with the Epstein thing. I mean, that's all pretty obvious. But this is kind of a smaller example where I think a lot of people see it that think it's wrong, that agree with what I believe too, that that's just crappy, and you're once again covering for the Democrat. But if you dig a little deeper and think about this, it's actually really evil, because supposedly they think this is such a horrible thing. This is a humanitarian crisis, concentration camps, all this stuff we heard. But if Obama's doing it, they're going to cover it up. So let's say a Democrat wins in 2020. What could they possibly do that the media would actually cover and not cover up? What evil could they commit that would cause the media to cover it? Because right now the media is covering something. I mean, they say Trump's, this evil dictator Nazi because he wants to build a wall and not allow illegal immigrants to just flood over the border. Yet they run this story about children being detained who are being brought over here illegally. Like, it's this horrible thing, once again, concentration camps and all of that. When they find out it's their guy, they cover it up. They delete it. They don't even correct it and say, oh, well, it happened here. They delete it. That is evil.